Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Carly Gallagher, your metabolic alchemist, and today's going to be an interesting one. Have you ever felt like AI gave us everything that we dreamed of? You know, the admin, the scheduling, the tasks that used to swallow up all of your morning. AI completely made them vanish. All automated, all handled. And And then you filled up every single minute of that time and efficiency that AI took away and filled it back up. You filled every single minute of it back up. And I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it for a mini second. If the whole point of building efficiency into your life was to have more of it, more of life, why does it feel like you're actually having less? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. The thing that you've been doing with that reclaimed time, the scrolling, the messages, the noise, the relentless getting on with it, it is not neutral. It is not harmless. It is biologically, measurably accelerating the very thing you're working so hard to avoid. You are spending your reclaimed time actually dying faster. I know. Today, I'm going to tell you what's actually happening and the one thing that changes all of it. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly why everything else you're doing is only working at half the capacity that you have. And without even knowing it, you can make that efficiency better. But by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly why everything else you're doing is only working at half capacity without it. Stay with me, guys. This one really matters. It's a favorite of mine. Okay. When was the last time you sat in actual silence? No, not meditating, not napping, not half watching something on Netflix, just quiet, nothing demanding anything from you. Nobody, no phone, no list running in the background of your mind. I'm going to guess that the honest answer to this is you can't remember. And that's completely honest. It happens to me too. And here's what I want you to notice, not judge, just notice about that. We are living in the most efficient era in human history. I mean, human history. AI is handling our admin, our calendars manage themselves. Information that used to take days now takes literally seconds. We have more capacity, more automation, more tools designed to give back time than any other generation before us have ever had. And we filled every single minute of it. Yeah, we've used it all up. It's already gone. That efficiency has already gone. The efficiency that we created is now gone, and now we need to find more efficiency. Research tracking what people actually do when AI saves them time found that 80% immediately reallocated that saved minute straight back into more tasks. So we didn't rest. We didn't actually stop. We just refilled that container with more noise, I guess. WhatsApp, Instagram, the scroll that starts as 2 minutes and then ends up somewhere that you never ever meant to go. The group chat that never fully quietens. I know all of you listening to me are probably going, yeah, that's your chat, Carly. The constant low hub of availability, messages waiting, notifications accumulating, the inbox that never fully gets emptied. I know, that's me. I live in the same world as you. I am you guys. Whenever I make a podcast, it's really about my life. And all of you guys resonate with it because we are the same. I am you. None of that actually helps with rest. Not 1 second of it. And you know that. And I say that as someone who is, of my own admission, a workaholic. I know that I am. I know what I have built. I've built an entire methodology designed to work with busy lives because that's the reality that we're all living in, mine included. But here's what I also know and what it took me a long time to say out aloud. I built a methodology that works in the margins of my busy life. And I built permission to step entirely outside of it as well. Both things are true. Both things are completely necessary, and you cannot get the full result from only one of them. I know. What a conundrum we all are in, ladies. This is the part that I really need you to sit with, right? The part of your brain responsible for higher thinking, which is hard to think about when you're in menopause. Have I got a brain that's got a capacity for higher thinking? I don't know. Well, we'll put that one on the other pile. But for now, the part that is about language, planning, reasoning are roughly the same size as the same capacity we had 2,000 years ago. You are walking around, ladies, with the same hardware as our Paleolithic ancestors. Let's just be clear about this. The same nervous system, the same stress response, the same biology that we had when humans were created, whether that's by God, evolution, I don't care. Let's just say that we're still dealing with the same body, right? The same brain. Evolutionary anthropologists from Zurich can research the hell out of this. But what they confirmed with that research was what many of us already know, which is modern environments are placing biological demands on humans that evolution never really prepared us for. The modern world has developed faster than our own biology can actually adapt to. Another researcher explains it probably a little bit more simpler. Our body reacts as though all of these stresses in life are lions chasing us down, whether it's a difficult discussion with your boss or your partner, a flood of messages coming into your inbox. Your stress response system is still the same as if you were facing a lion or multiple lions. Okay. And as a result, you have a very powerful response from that nervous system, but there is no recovery. No recovery. That's the part we keep skipping. The stress fires, and then instead of resolving, instead of the predator going away and the body returning to baseline, we pick up the phone and then we reload that threat. Not because the WhatsApp message is a crisis, but because our nervous system is ancient and it cannot tell the difference between a line and an unanswered message. What it does register, though, is demand, unresolved, and still here. And for women in perimenopause and menopause, this lands harder for us than anybody else because estrogen was actually quietly doing a job of managing our stress response that we didn't realize. It was supporting our parasympathetic nervous system, the part that puts the brake on after the stress is triggered. Our estrogen fluctuates and then declines, and then it fluctuates again in perimenopause, and then it declines in menopause. And then all of a sudden, our brakes fail. We have no brakes, ladies. Our brakes are failing, and that means our response to stress is failing. It's firing faster, it's activating harder, and it's taking longer for us to return to baseline. Does that remind you sometimes of those very, very unmanageable responses to things? Are you quick to anger, irritable, frustrated? Do you seem to not handle situations quite as maturely as we used to? Even though we're getting older, sometimes maybe we look back at our response and go, "Oh, that was a bit embarrassing." You are ancient biology running in a world that didn't exist a generation ago. And then we're doing that during the exact hormonal window when our capacity to recover from it is the most compromised. So this is not a character flaw. This is literally a biological mismatch, and it has a prescription. It's not a supplement. It's not HRT. It's not a scan. It's not a tracker. Stay with me, ladies. I'm going to get you there. But I want to highlight this. We have never, ever before had better and more access to our own health data. I talked about this in my wearables podcast, but wearables, they're tracking your HRV. your heart rate variability, your sleep staging, your recovery score, your stress load, your biological age. Body composition scales measure our fat mass, your muscle mass, your visceral fat in real time. DEXA scans that map your bone density down to the gram. Continuous glucose monitors showing your metabolic response to every single meal. Lasers, imaging, blood panels, functional testing. We could see everything inside ourselves in ways that science fiction 20 years ago could never ever have imagined. And most of the women I work with are using at least one of these tools because, hey, if you're listening to this, then we're serious about our health. You've made financial decisions to invest in this measurement. And guess what? You know the numbers. And I love that because I'm all about the data. And I talk about that before a lot. But guess what? You're still exhausted. We're still exhausted. We're still inflamed. Still not shifting the weight that won't budge despite doing everything right. Still waking up at 3 a.m. Still running on a nervous system that hasn't really truly rested in decades. Because here's what none of those tools actually do. They don't actually fix anything. They just measure. And I know measurement is important, right? But they tell you something really is wrong. They show you your HRV that's suppressed. They show you that your recovery score is in red. Your cortisol pattern is dysregulated, and they also wait for you to do something about it. And the thing that would actually fix it, the intervention that matches the biological mismatch we just talked about, doesn't come in a device. It doesn't actually come in a scan. It doesn't actually come on a dashboard. It comes actually from making space. No, not the space that NASA explores into, or really does it explore into there? Let's not get into the flat earth theory, but real, extended, deliberate space. And that is outside of your normal environment, away from the cues that keep your nervous system primed for demand. This is what somatic science has understood for decades, that the body actually cannot heal in the same conditions that dysregulated it in the first place. No amount of data changes a nervous system that hasn't actually been given and felt the experience of genuine safety. Look, you can know your numbers perfectly and you can still be stuck. I can look at your numbers and you can still be stuck because knowing is not the same thing as doing. And doing in this context doesn't look like more action. I know. It actually looks like the most radical, countercultural, biologically intelligent thing a woman in this era can do. It looks like stopping. I know, stopping. Before I say what I'm about to say, I want to be really clear about who I'm talking to here. So if you are genuinely scraping every cent together right now, keeping the lights on, keeping the food on the table, navigating real financial hardship, this is not directed at you, so don't be offended. Your season will come, and when it does, this will be here for you, locked and loaded into your memory. This is for everyone else, the women who are comfortable, who are saving, who have money moving into an account every month towards a future that's always that little bit further away, who can say, I can't afford it, when what they really actually mean is I haven't decided if it's worth it yet. Because here's what I want you to sit with. What are you actually saving for? Not rhetorically, actually. What is the specific thing you're saving, are building toward? Because if the answer is kind of vague, if it's a general sense of security, a rainy day fund, a retirement that's still 15 years away, then I want to offer you a different frame. Let me paint you a picture, a composite of women, generalizing. I've worked with many of you, and honestly, women I've watched in my own life kind of make up this story. Okay. She's a 52-year-old woman. Let's not get stuck on the number, but she has worked her whole entire adult life really hard. She's financially responsible, genuinely, admirably responsible. She saves consistently. She doesn't splurge. She's building towards something. Though if you pressed her, she couldn't really name what it is. She's told herself for the past decade that she's got to probably invest in her health when things calm down, when the mortgage is more manageable, when the kids are through school, when work is eased up, when she hits a savings number that feels like it's enough. And she's 52, and she has never once spent real money on her own restoration. Not a retreat, not an extended program, not anything that cost more than a few $100s and was over in a weekend. She buys her supplements, yes. She has a gym membership she uses occasionally. She considers herself someone who takes her health very seriously, though. At 58, she's sadly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. At 61, her cardiologist says she needs statins because her cholesterol's high. Don't get me started on that. At 64, the procedure that costs more than every retreat she's ever told herself she couldn't afford combined is now on the table. And then by the time she's 65 and retired, she's finally got the time. The money's there, the body that she was saving it for, the healthy, vital, energetic body she assumed would have on the other side of all that responsible deferral, the body needed the investment 20 years earlier, though. This is not a scare story. This is a pattern which I play out with devastating predictability. There are only two ways to spend money on your health: upstream or downstream. Upstream is the retreat, the program, the naturopath, the annual investment in your nervous system that actually gets the rest done. Downstream is the specialist, the medication, the procedures, the years of managing a body in pain and debilitation that was never given what it was needing when it still had the capacity to fully respond to it. Downstream's more expensive in every possible sense of the word. My husband is in finance, and I work in health, ironically. And between us, we have had many, many conversations about what wealth actually is. And we made a conscious decision in our own lives to spend on health the way that other people's might spend on maybe bigger assets or a savings fund. Not instead of financial security, but alongside it, because a body is genuinely an asset. Health is your asset. It is compounding interest on every single investment that you make on it. And so when you spend your wealth on your health, this is true wealth. The other way around, wealth that sits in an account with your health quietly deteriorating, that's just an expensive storage facility. Your nervous system right now is like that smoke alarm that has been going off that nobody wants to hear anymore. I've got one of those. Why do smoke alarms always go off randomly at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's no noise over time? You essentially end up calling it normal. Is it normal the alarm system keeps going off at 2 a.m.? Is it normal you keep waking up at 2 a.m.? It's the same thing. But the alarm is still screaming and your body is still treating it as a real fire. That is why sleep doesn't really fully restore you. That is why you feel wired and tired simultaneously, and your body then starts to signal your body to hold on to more fats, particularly around the middle, because it generally believes it may need those reserves for an emergency. So to turn off that alarm, not to suppress it, but to actually turn it off, your nervous system needs something no supplement or no tool can actually deliver. This is the whole point of this story, guys. We're getting to the point. It needs genuine sensory evidence that you are safe. Finally, she got to it. How many minutes in away? The latest research from 2025 from a scientist, I believe, a doctor, Stephen Porges. He's actually a neuroscientist, and he did some research on the polyvagal theory, which confirms that safety is not a mental state you can think yourself into. You can't just imagine yourself, I'm safe. It's not possible. It is a biological requirement that your body receives this through senses. I keep talking to you guys about feeling something. If I could say anything about my programs, all I say is I want you to feel it. That's why we document everything, because I want you to actually recognize what your body is telling you, the senses that you are feeling, the feelings that you're feeling, the environment, the sound, the stillness, the connections. These are the senses that are not nice additions to a healing protocol. They are the protocol, basically. And there is the science of awe, or as in AWE, awe. And this word actually really stopped me dead in my tracks. Researchers at Berkeley in the United States, they identified what happened neurologically during genuine awe moments. That feeling of being in the presence of something vast, something that makes you feel both small and expanded at the same time. There is a specific part of the brain that deactivates the default mode network. That's where your internal narrator lives. The to-do list, the self-criticism, the rumination, the relentless planning, it all goes quiet. Let that land a little bit for a moment. Let's just sit with that. The noise in your head, the one that runs everything when you're supposed to be resting, it actually switches off when you're in awe. Now, not because you disciplined yourself into silence, because the environment that you stepped into was large enough to make it all irrelevant. Or, you know what I mean, right? When you have that sense of you can't even think of anything, you can't literally say anything because your brain has stopped. Wow, we've actually studied that. That's amazing. And really, what's more amazing with this is that at the same time of that awe moment, the vagus nerve activates. And that then starts to slow your heart rate. It cools inflammation. It signals to your body to open rather than to brace. Let me say that again. Open, expansiveness versus bracing, holding, tension. Amazing. So, all experiences are directly linked to elevated vagal tone, reduced inflammatory markers, and decreased anxiety. Oh, we need more awe, ladies. That internal narrator is going to go quiet. That inflammation is going to now cool down. That cortisol begins to metabolize. The body receives messages all of a sudden that it's been waiting for. Oh my God, we just need more awe, ladies. You cannot get there in your daily life, though. Damn it. No, but because your nervous system has learnt through repeated lessons that we give it every day what your daily environment actually means. And what it means is demand, output, readiness, or requires novelty. I know. No, not a good book. Not a good novel. It requires beauty that is larger than your problems. It requires an environment that asks nothing of you in return. This is why real rest is not what most of us are doing when we think we are resting. No, lying on the couch scrolling is not rest. A glass of wine on a Friday night is not rest. Even a sleep-in on a Sunday is not rest, not in the way the body actually needs it. Rest is in the full felt somatic experience of safety, of being undemanded, of your nervous system genuinely down-regulating, measurably, psychologically, physiologically, and also at the level of HRV, cortisol, and inflammatory markers. Most women have never ever experienced it. Not as adults, not in the lives that they're currently living anyway. And until they do, just once, long enough for the body to remember what it feels like, the foundation work that you're doing will always be working against a current fit that it can't quite overcome. And I want to tell you why my retreat exists, because it didn't come from a business plan. It came from watching my clients hit a ceiling. Women who were doing everything right, following the methodology, doing the work, getting the real results, and then plateauing somewhere short of where they should have been. Not because the foundations were wrong, but because something underneath the foundations wasn't shifting. Their nervous systems were still running the emergency protocol. Despite the nutrition, the movement, the sleep, the support, the body was still bracing, still holding, still metabolically stuck in a pattern that no protocol that I could ever put together could finally override, because the root of it wasn't a food problem or an exercise problem. It was a safety problem. A body that had never been given the right conditions to fully let go. The awe moment. I can't give you an awe moment in my app. I'm sorry. And at the same time as me watching this, I was also traveling. I was going to places that did something to me that I couldn't fully, clinically, maybe even scientifically explain, but I could feel it. A quality of reset that I couldn't get in my normal life. Even on my best days, even when following my own methodology perfectly, I could never quite produce that same response. Even measure it. I could not get the same measurements when trying to replicate this back home. My nervous system in those environments was doing something that I simply couldn't do at home. And I could feel the difference in my body, in my clarity, in my capacity to return to work, and my life was something genuinely replenished, not just rested. So I looked for a way to replicate that. I looked for a retreat location that combined what I knew worked: the metabolic science, the somatic nervous system work, the nutritional foundations, the kind of environment that creates genuine awe. The environment matters neurologically, not just aesthetically. Sacred temple visits that place you inside something ancient and vast. The exact kind of encounters that activate awe and quietens that default mode network. The ocean, the particular quality of the landscape that does something to that threat detection system that our ancient nervous system was designed to find safety in. Every element of retreat is intentional. The yin yoga and the somatic movement, because your body is holding patterns that your mind has long since rationalized away. You cannot think yourself out of stored tension. You have to actually move through it gently in a body that feels in a safe environment to actually release it. This is not yoga class. This is a conversation with your nervous system that has been waiting for your permission to actually finally speak. The breath work, the guided meditation, because the breath is the direct line to your nervous system, your vagus nerve, the one part of your autonomic nervous system that you can actually consciously influence, where every breath together slowly with intention is literally reaching into your stress response and turning down the volume. Nutrition and the power of food built into every single meal, because this is not a week off from health. Every meal is incorporating work directly into your biology. You will feel, possibly for the first time in years, what it's like to eat in a way that calms your nervous system rather than quietly inflaming it. The silence, that particular gift of time that belongs only to you. No deliverables, no one waiting, nothing to produce. Look, I won't lie, some women cry when they come to my retreats. Not from being sad, not because I pulled their hair, no, but from sheer relief of actually being able to stop and have permission to give back to themselves. Let that resonate with you. That permission to finally do something for yourself. And the women around you, the community of women on my retreats who arrive carrying the same exhaustion, the same defense, the same deferred self permission, the same quiet hunger for something they couldn't quite name. There is a kind of healing that only happens in that, in being witnessed, in co regulation, in the felt experience of not being alone in it. Is 1 week a year enough? Honestly, no, not entirely. Is twice a year even good enough? Look, probably not. Once is infinitely more than none. And 1 week done with true intention, treated as work, not a holiday, not a reward, can actually break patterns that have been running for years. It gives the body a reference point, a felt memory of what genuine safety feels like. And from that one memory, everything else works better. The foundations go deeper, the results compound, and the body finally has somewhere safe to land. The retreat is not the fun extra that you reward yourself. This is the foundation the foundations are built on. This is my non-negotiable. These are not holidays that I plan in the year. These are work periods on myself, on my body, the giving back. And even though I'm teaching, I'm actually still giving back to my body in that. I am sharing what it feels like to finally have permission to stop. So let me bring all this back to where we started. Because we did start with AI, right? And AI gave us our lives back. The efficiency, the automation, the hours that were supposed to be finally yours to spend on you, they actually arrived. And most of us filled them straight back up with more noise, more scroll, more messages, more output, more getting on with it. And here's what I need you to hear, really hear before this episode finishes. And you go back to your day and you fill it all back up again. You tick the boxes, you really do. The water, the supplements, the sleep, the movement, the programs, my podcasts. You're showing up, you're doing the work, but you're only doing half of it. You know my methodology, and if you've been here for a while, you know that at the very heart of everything I teach, it's a rest-based methodology. Rest is not the bonus round. Rest is not just the occasional yoga class that you fit in. It's not the reward at the end. It's the foundation pillar of how the body actually heals, resets, and transforms. And yet most of you, I'm sorry, you're rubbish at it. You're only using half of it. And some of you aren't even using that at all. You are still stuck in the mindset of push, 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 and you'll gain, gain, gain. You're showing up for the doing and quietly skipping the being, the deep, genuine, fully resourced rest, the kind that requires you to actually stop, not just slow down, not just arrive on the mat, but actually stop. So here's what I want you to understand. How you fit into your genes right now, that might matter superficially. And the work gets you there. I prove that. But that's not the point. The point is who you are at 70, at 80, whether you are vital, present, genuinely alive in those years in our later lives, or whether you were managing a body that was never given what it was needed when it still had the capacity to fully respond. The end of your life is what we are actually working towards. And the piece that determines how that ends, that is what today has been all about. The whole point of AI, the whole point of efficiency, the whole point of building a life with more capacity in it was supposed to be this: space. Genuine space for awe to come into us, for true opening, for the body that cannot be done within the margins. Don't fill it with more noise. If you are spending money doing the work, whether it's with me or someone else, then do it properly. Find a retreat. Find somewhere that removes you from the environment, places you in nature, brings you back into your body, and gives your nervous system the one thing it cannot find at home: genuine evidence that you are safe. It doesn't have to be my retreat, although come to mine because I love to meet my people. It doesn't have to be mine, although if you want to fully encompass everything that somatic environments deliver for your nervous system, then definitely come. Check out the link below to my wellness retreats. But find something, put it in your calendar, budget for it like it's an asset that it actually is, because this is the true longevity work, not the scan that measures your bone density, not the tracker that tells you your HRV is low. The thing that actually moves the needle, the space that lets your ancient, exhausted, magnificently resilient nervous system finally fully receive the message it has been waiting for. And it is saying, you are safe. You can stop now. Your life, the real one, is right here in this moment. That's it from me today. I go deep. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Next podcast, I might talk about something like saunas. Hey, come with me. Stick around. I look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. And that's a wrap. Phew. If something clicked for you today, I've got all the links to my favourite products, supplements, and exactly where to buy them waiting for you in the show notes. Just head to the show notes for the links to those pages or my website, inner-alchemy.com.au, and let's turn those frustrating symptoms into your comeback story. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next episode.